What's up, guys? I'm DK, and today I'm going to be doing a list of the worst to the best Emerald City Comic Con 2026 exclusives from Funko. Now, recently we finally had the exclusives revealed, with them releasing this upcoming Thursday, and overall I think this convention is pretty cool with the amount of limited stuff that's available. So I'll be going through all 11 Emerald City Comic Con exclusive pops and starting off what I feel is the worst and work one by one until what I feel is the best exclusive for Emerald City Comic Con 2026. And if you end up enjoying this type of content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But nonetheless, let's kick off this list with what I feel is the worst exclusive, being the Facet Pongo from 101 Dalmatians. Now, don't get me wrong, I like me some 101 Dalmatians, and it makes sense that we're getting some pops for this license because it celebrates its 65th anniversary this year. However, I've always had some sort of disdain towards Funko Pops of specifications as exclusives. We've had a lot of them, especially Facet Pops, in the past. Now, I will give this pop credit that this is one of the few limited edition items being limited to 1,001 pieces, which actually makes sense for the piece count number because it plays along with 101 Dalmatians. So I'll give it credit with that, in that it's a limited piece count and maybe it should go higher, but the overall look of the pop, I just don't like the facet presentation to why it's right at the bottom of the list. Next on the list would be Kogian from Sanrio. Now, usually when it comes to these types of lists, I would put characters from Sanrio near the bottom of the list because I don't really like the Hello Kitty and Kuromi style of pops for the most part. But the reason that I chose this pop over the Pongo Facet Pop is the fact that this is actually the very first Funko Pop of this specific character. And I believe they mentioned that during the live stream on Funko's Instagram that showed off all the exclusives for Emerald City Comic Con, and how Sanrio had literally announced this character not too long ago, and Funko is one of the first companies to actually make some sort of merchandise for this character. Next up on my list is the Wolverine pop for the Marvel lineup. Now, this pop is okay, but it feels like a Wolverine that I've already seen. I can't tell when I look at this Wolverine what makes this different compared to the several other Wolverines we've had in the past, even the abundance of them they were doing for the anniversary of Wolverine and when Deadpool and Wolverine released. So although I do like the facial expression, that just feels like a pop where they took a head mold of one pop and slapped it on a body of another one and then presented you, hey, a brand new Wolverine pop. The next pop would be the Batman for the DC Comics lineup. Now, I think this pop is okay. I know we've had tons of Batmans, considering it was like the first character ever made for a Funko Pop, and we've had so many different versions in the past, whether a common, an exclusive, a convention exclusive, but I like the posing that's involved. It is something that I can feel that it's something a little bit newer, unlike the Wolverine I mentioned on the previous spot of this list. This will be once again part of the limited edition program, but with this specific pop, it's actually going to be an ultra variant limited to 5,000 pieces. So it's not going to be as limited as, let's say, the Facet Pongo that I mentioned earlier on this list. But something that will be more limited is the next pop on this list, which is the black and white variant of Batman. And unlike the normal one that's an ultra variant, this specific version is a grail, which, if I can read this correctly, I think that says 500 pieces that that's going to be limited to. And I feel like that's definitely one of the most limited pops in recent memory, as like one that's kind of up for grabs that isn't a part of, let's say, Funko Fun Days or the Box of Fun. So that's kind of the only reason why that's one spot ahead. It really could switch back and forth like in spots, because I would prefer the colored version over the black and white, but because of how low this piece count is, it's the one spot up from the normal one. Up next on the list is Punisher for the Marvel lineup, a character that has had a few different Funko Pops, but not as much as, of course, Batman or Superman. We've had some normal Marvel variants, and of course there have been some for the Daredevil Born Again series. I'm not surprised that I believe they are capitalizing on the new season of Daredevil Born Again by giving us a classic variant of that character as a Comic-Con exclusive, and I know Funko has done that for previous Comic-Cons where they'll make the classic version of a character for either an ongoing or upcoming project within either, let's say, the MCU or the DCU. And this one does look pretty cool with the outfit and especially the sword that he's holding. It's fairly different compared to the other Punisher pops that we've had. Next up on the list is the Brass Dragon Wormling from Dungeons and Dragons. Now, normally when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons pops, Funko literally goes over the top with these. In the past, we've had pops like the Gelatinous Cube for Emerald City Comic Con in 2020, the other version of Gelatinous Cube that's blue for WonderCon. There was also the Tiamat for New York Comic Con. They've done some of the best looking pops for this specific licensor, but there's something about this that feels a little off to me, and I'm not sure if it's because it's in a sideways box or not, but there's just something that I feel like should add a little bit more oomph to it, to where it could be considered a great pickup for a Comic-Con exclusive. And I can already tell with the way that the sideways box is that this thing is going to be absolutely tiny. Even though it is a limited piece count, I can tell with the sticker that it's going to be a Supreme pop, usually limited to 9,500 pieces. So way more accessible than some of the limited edition pops that we already have on this list. Next on the list is the Metallic Muzan Kipisuji from Demon Slayer. I apologize, I should have mentioned in the beginning of this video that I was probably going to butcher any names that come from anime, but this pop looks really awesome. I remember there was a Muzan during the early waves of Demon Slayer, which looked really awesome, and then I believe there is a newer variant that is an exclusive to a retailer that looks awesome as well. So I like seeing Funko dive into characters that may only have a couple of variants instead of its usual characters they make lots of variants for, like let's say in this case Inosuke or Tanjiro. So seeing newer variants of characters that haven't had variants is really awesome, and I think this will look really awesome, especially with that metallic specification.
Shout out goes to the unacceptable viewer.
And the reason that they ended up getting a shout out is because they joined our YouTube channel membership, which only cost $1.99 a month. Not only do you get the shout out, but you do get lots of other perks, including early access to every single video and short that we produce on this channel. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It will be greatly appreciated and will go a long way of helping out this channel a lot. So definitely consider it, but let's get right back to the video. Now in the top 3 portion of this list, I have the Superman pop for the DC Comics lineup. This is really awesome, and I believe I mentioned in yesterday's video when this was featured on the top 10 list of Funko Pops for the month of February that I love the fact that we have this typical pose, because I think the last time and the only time we've had this sort of post was for the Smallville lineup of pops. So if you really wanted to collect just regular Superman and wanted this pose, this is kind of the pop to go with, even though it is a part of the really limited pops for the limited edition program, being in the legendary category, limited to around 1,500 pieces. And normally I don't like pops with the speech bubble effect, but I think the way they pulled this off does look really awesome, and I think a lot of people are so hyped about this Superman pop. The second last pop on this list is the Shadow Heart from Baldur's Gate. Now this pop does look really nice, and I love the detail that goes along with this, and I know this pop is really hyped right now with a lot of the Funko fanatics, to the point where one of them was complaining about why this was a limited piece count, and Funko actually replied back to them saying, you complain when we don't make limited pieces, but you still complain when we do, or at least along the lines of that. Which it's funny to see Funko kind of go into Wendy's mode on Twitter when it comes to replying back to comments like that. But that's besides the point. It's really nice in detail. It is a part of the very limited piece pops of 1,500 pieces alongside pops like Superman that was previous to this, and I think the reason it's higher up than Superman, even though I know more of Superman rather than, of course, Baldur's Gate, is the detail that goes along with this pop, which then leaves to what I feel is the best Funko Pop, being the Frankie with Black Rhino pop rides from One Piece. The pop that started the speculation that they were coming back to Emerald City Comic Con because of the leak that was posted by, I believe, Foxjoy Collectibles, I think the name was, that it showed off that it was going to have the spring convention sticker. And I think overall the detail looks really awesome with how it's presented, and I like the fact that this pop fixes issues that I hate about pop rides currently, and that's making a smaller pop, but then you're paying so much for it, mostly because of of the box size that it's involved with. It's almost like Funko's version of shrinkflation that they're doing, where let's say you buy a bag of chips, but you're paying mostly for the air inside of the bag rather than the quantity that's inside that bag of chips. That's what they've been doing lately with Pop Rides and Deluxes and Moments, to where I feel like they kind of fixed that issue for the most part with this pop, where it's taking most of the area in the box that it's in. But let me know down below, what do you think is the worst and the best pops for this year's Emerald City Comic Con?